Hi, my name is Emily Taylor, principal of teenyBIG. What you're about to watch is an interview between myself and one of my clients, Jan Combopiano. I met Jan in 2023, and she was COO of a younger nonprofit organization that saw an influx in growth during the pandemic and really brought her on to build efficiencies and processes for the doubling of staff that was coming in. She reached out to me because she saw a need to listen to their community so they could understand its strengths and relationships as it shifted from the startup to growth phase. In this video, we'll discuss some of the challenges the organization was facing at the time it reached out to me and how listening helps support their strategic decisions over the next few years.
All right, hi. I am here with Jan Combopiano, and we're here to talk about a project we worked on together. Jan has been helping organizations develop and enhance their systems, helping employees thrive. She has a professional mission to create human-centered workplaces, which I love. She's been a senior vice president, research and chief knowledge officer at Catalyst, chief operating officer at Worth Rises, and really just is an all-around great operations person. So, Jan, I want to just also let you introduce yourself.
Hi, Emily. It's great to be here. In addition to my work in nonprofits, I also want to give a little bit of a shout out to my work in voting rights reform and being part of creating bottom-up power here in the U.S. So.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I love how we've connected on the importance of listening to people. But I also just love your passion for democracy and people, helping support people who need the extra lift. So I want to talk a little bit just to start about when we started working together. If you can talk a little bit about where your organization was at the time.
Yeah, when I was hired, we were truly in the startup phase. We were still under fiscal sponsorship. We really didn't have any systems in place. Our founder did a fantastic job making sure the organization had made it to that phase, and we were ready to be an independent nonprofit. And that's when I was hired to put in all of those systems. So for the next few years, we were really focused on making sure we had sustainable systems so we could grow as an organization, we could have more impact, we could keep the mission going. And so it was a lot of focusing both internally, that was my work, really internal, how can we make this work? How can we help people be successful at work, and creating momentum for our mission.
Awesome. So you were definitely at an inflection point, which I see a lot of organizations at for growth. What were some of the sort of fears or frustrations at that point as you were looking to change to a more independent organization?
Yeah, when we were going on this path, we realized, because we were a founder-led organization, how much was really dependent on sort of one person, and she couldn't do everything. And that's why we wanted to grow, right? We wanted to have more staff. We wanted to be able to do more things. And for us, the inflection point was, okay, if we're going to shift from just being from a startup organization into a growth phase organization and hiring more people, doing more work, having more programs, what didn't we know? What did we need to be on the lookout for? What would help us on that journey? And that was the inflection point for us. We had so much success and we were preparing for more, but it seemed like a great time to take a moment and actually hear from the community itself.
Excellent. What did you hope would improve with this community assessment?
We had some indications of some things that we knew were struggles for us as an organization, but we really wanted confirmation on some of those. So that was helpful. We also wanted to understand, was our messaging getting through? Did people understand what we did? Did they understand why we did it? And when I'm saying about the community, we're talking about everyone from the board to our partners, to our donors. Did they understand our mission? Did they understand what was our lane? What were we trying to do? And for that, we weren't sure. So that was like very open. We also talked to our staff. We weren't sure if they knew. We had brought on a lot of staff. And so part of it was getting some confirmation of some indications we already had. But part of it was really being open to what else is there to learn.
Yeah. Okay. So we started our work together, and I think you mentioned some of the stakeholders that I helped listen to. I talked to staff, I talked to the board, I talked to partners, and both funders and donors. And so I'm really curious, what surprised you most about what we found out by listening to people?
One thing surprised to me was how much people didn't understand what was our lane, what was
Yeah,
our
I
mission,
remember
and
that.
that was true from the board. That was true from our partners. Luckily, it was not true for the staff, so that made me feel good. But we thought we had been so clear about what it is we were doing, but then getting this back, they couldn't pick out our mission statement. They were advocating for us to do work that had nothing to do with what we were working on. So that was really surprising and a real positive for doing the assessment. It really helped us learn something important.
Yeah, I remember pulling that apart because it was interesting to see, people, you were doing such great work, people almost relied on you to do all these different things that were, like you said, weren't in your lane. Um, what sort of things came out of that? Were there any changes that came out of learning some of these things that people didn't quite understand the lane, the mission? Were there, even if they're just sort of thought starters for now, what sort of things were you thinking about?
I think there were a few different pieces. One was I would put it in the bucket of onboarding. So we, of course, onboarded staff, and they were the ones who knew the lane. They were the ones who knew the mission. And so it was helping us think through, well, how do we onboard board members, for example? What could we do to help them? How do we, I'm going to call it onboarding, but it's really about coalition building with our partners. How do we help them understand what it is we do in a more comprehensive way? So we started thinking through, oh, maybe we need to change some of this introductory work and not make assumptions that people know because they want to partner with us, they want to be on our board, that they know what we think they already know, which they didn't.
Yeah. And I remember, just being able to pull out some of the language that people were using to kind of help differentiate, well, what is it that people don't understand and what do they need to know? How did this change your team going into strategic planning?
So it was really helpful to get the presentation from you and like be able to go through the different groups, go into a little bit deeper from some of the interviews that you did to understand why someone was saying something and figuring that out. And so when we had our annual retreat, board and staff retreat, our executive director actually gave a presentation to the whole team about this work and what did we learn to sort of prime them for thinking about the work differently. So people got to ask questions, they got to hear what was confusing, and it was great to have the staff like interact with it as well and ask questions and have them thinking, for example, how do I onboard a new partner? How do I help someone understand the work that we're doing? How do I become a better partner to some of these other organizations and things like that?
Excellent. So it sounds like you're doing a lot of just education and onboarding has changed. Is there any other ways you're team? Is it working more closely with your community based on what they've learned?
Yeah, I mean, one of the other learnings was a lot of people really associated the organization with the founder. No surprise there.
Yeah, happens a lot.
She was intimately involved with everything. And it was getting her to think, and all of the rest of us to think, oh, how do we sort of spread the wealth there? How do we make sure that other relationships are held by other people, by more people? There's always a backup. There's always someone else. Other people are kind of the lead in some of this work in a different way. So it wasn't just about onboarding. It was about sort of shifting the way work gets done and how work gets done transparently with other people and externally, so people could see, oh, this is the person who holds this work, not the founder, right? So it was about doing some shifts. And some of them were just small of, oh, the founder's not going to be on these calls anymore. It's only going to be this person, or the emails are going to come from this other person, or this person is going to start new work and the founder isn't going to be intimately involved. She'll just hear about it as the course of, just running an organization and sort of helping manage and lead the team kind of thing. Yeah. So it did have internal and external shifts in work.
Yeah, I like really kind of splitting the power of decision making a bit over all the new staff that you have been bringing in. Mm-hmm. And, I do remember some of the frustration that like staff couldn't always do as much as they wanted to, because, they didn't necessarily have that visible power to do so. But it also helps with, the increasing the impact, like you're saying, as you're in that inflection point to be able to do more with more people, rather than relying on the founder all the time.
That was also part of it. I think the executive director had a real commitment to putting a new decision-making framework in place and really being more transparent about which decisions people could hold, how that could work, going downward, not just to her direct reports, but for them to sort of push it down to their direct reports as well.
Excellent. Great preparation for that shift. Were there any unexpected benefits to this work?
I think one of the unexpected benefits was just being able to say to our board members, to our funders, to our partners, to our staff, that we care about what you think. And it was just really nice to hear from people, oh, I got asked to do this thing. Or when I told the team, oh, you're going to get an email from Emily. We're asking you to make sure that you prioritize doing the survey and making time for the interview. Everyone was like ready. They were like, oh, I did my interview. They were really excited. So I think the idea of we were willing to ask and we're willing to hear what people said really created sort of a virtuous cycle of people wanting to hear more from the organization itself.
Yeah, that's so wonderful. And I really loved being able to hear all the positive things about the organization and the great work you were doing. So it's sort of like, I always say to organizations, even you might expect to hear some criticism or fear some things, but it's also really powerful and amazing to hear what people love about the work that you're doing, what they value. So that was so wonderful to be able to make that connection and to help connect them more with your organization. Well, Jan, this has been really wonderful to just reflect on this project with you. What's the best way for people to find you?
I would say I'm on LinkedIn. I am literally the only person with my name on LinkedIn.
Yeah, you're easier than me to find.
Yeah, so you will be able to find me.
Excellent. Well, thank you for your time today, Jan.
Thank you, Emily.